They never taught you this in school. Not because it is illegal, not because it is magic, but because once you understand it, you can never be controlled the same way again. Dark psychology is not about becoming evil, it is about understanding the hidden mechanics of human behavior, the silent triggers, the invisible buttons that get pressed every single day without your awareness. Every advertisement you see, every leader you follow, every person who influences your emotions is using psychology on you. The only difference is whether you are conscious of it or not. Most people live their entire lives reacting instead of choosing. They think their decisions are free, but in reality, those decisions were guided long before the thought even formed. Today, this speech is not meant to make you manipulate people for harm. It is meant to wake you up so you stop being manipulated, so you see the world as it really is, not as it is presented to you. The human mind is predictable. That fact alone should scare you. We like to believe we are unique thinkers, independent minds, but patterns exist. When fear appears, the brain seeks safety. When uncertainty appears, the brain seeks authority. When pain appears, the brain seeks relief. Whoever controls fear, uncertainty, and pain controls behavior. That is why the world is full of noise. Constant notifications, breaking news, urgency, pressure, deadlines, trends. All of it is designed to keep you emotionally reactive, because an emotional mind does not question, it obeys. Calm minds analyze. Emotional minds submit. One of the darkest truths of psychology is this: people do not follow logic, they follow feelings, and then they use logic to justify those feelings later. This means if someone can control how you feel, they do not need to convince you with facts. They only need to guide your emotional state. Fear-based control is the oldest strategy known to humanity. Fear of being alone. Fear of missing out. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being judged. Fear of failure. When fear dominates, people accept rules they would otherwise reject. They accept limitations they would otherwise challenge. They accept lives they would otherwise escape. Another silent weapon is validation manipulation. Humans crave approval more than they admit. From childhood, love is often conditional. You behave well, you are rewarded. You disobey, you are punished. This programs the nervous system to seek validation from authority figures. As adults, authority changes shape. It becomes bosses, influencers, partners, society, trends. When someone gives you validation unpredictably, your brain releases dopamine in irregular patterns. This creates emotional dependency. You start chasing approval, even if it costs your dignity. This is why inconsistent attention is more addictive than consistent attention. It keeps the mind hooked, guessing, hoping, waiting. Then there is the illusion of choice. A powerful technique where people believe they are choosing freely, but all options lead to the same outcome. This happens everywhere. Limited menus. Two political sides. Approved lifestyles. Acceptable dreams. When options are framed carefully, resistance disappears. People feel empowered, even while being directed. The mind relaxes when it believes it has control, even if that control is fake. Language itself is a tool of influence. Words shape perception. Label something often enough, and people accept the label as truth. Repeat an idea frequently, and it becomes familiar. Familiarity creates comfort. Comfort creates belief. This is why repetition is more powerful than accuracy. The brain trusts what it hears often, not what is proven once. This is why propaganda works. This is why slogans work. This is why narratives control nations. One of the most dangerous psychological traps is identity attachment. When people attach their identity to beliefs, opinions, groups, or roles, logic becomes a threat. Any challenge feels like a personal attack. At that point, discussion dies and defense begins. This is how people can defend ideas that harm them. Not because the ideas are logical, but because abandoning them would shatter the self-image they depend on. Identity-based control is the strongest form of control because the victim protects the system themselves. Dark psychology also reveals something uncomfortable. Kindness without boundaries invites exploitation. Empathy without strength becomes a weakness in a world where not everyone plays fair. Manipulators look for predictable patterns: over-apologizing, fear of conflict, need to be liked, difficulty saying no. These signals mark easy targets. Awareness is protection. Confidence with calmness disrupts manipulation. Silence is often stronger than reaction. Another deep truth is that humans mirror power, not morality. People respect strength first, values second. This does not mean cruelty. It means self-respect, boundaries, decisiveness, and emotional control. The person who reacts less holds more power. Emotional neutrality creates psychological dominance because it removes leverage. When someone cannot read you, they cannot easily control you. Time pressure is another weapon. Urgency shuts down critical thinking. When you are rushed, you choose safety over strategy. That is why deadlines are used to force decisions. Slowing down is an act of rebellion. Pausing breaks the spell. Asking questions disrupts scripts. Silence creates discomfort in those trying to control the interaction. Now understand this clearly. Dark psychology is not about becoming manipulative. It is about becoming immune. Once you see the patterns, they lose power. Once you recognize emotional hooks, you can detach. Awareness shifts you from being a pawn to being a player. Most people never reach this stage because it requires brutal honesty with oneself. It requires admitting how easily influenced we all are. The final lesson is responsibility. Once you see, you cannot unsee. You are responsible for your reactions, your boundaries, your growth. Power without ethics destroys. Awareness with discipline builds. Use this knowledge to protect your mind, to sharpen your perception, to walk through the world awake while others sleep. The darkest psychology is not about controlling others. It is about mastering yourself in a world designed to control you. And remember this: the person who understands the mind but controls their own emotions is unstoppable. The person who controls others but cannot control themselves is already defeated.